Hi, welcome to another episode of First Light. I'm your host Renaya, and today we commence with part two of our wisdom series. And to kick it off, we begin with the following questions. One, what does the Most High, who does the Most High give wisdom to? Two, what is the beginning, the root of wisdom? Three, what must one do if wisdom is desired? Four, is commandment keeping the fear of the Lord? And five, what delights the Most High from men? Okay. So, find out much more, this and much more on today's episode of Food to Go, Ancient Words for Modern Man. But for now, let us pray. Heavenly Father, grant us peace and understanding, and a humble willingness to apply your eternal and endless word to our lives. You tell us to ask for wisdom, and so as obedient children, we ask for her, right here, right now, wherever we are in this journey of life. Pour her abundantly upon us, and allow us to abide in you, and you in us. Purify us fully, Yah, in the name of our Redeemer Yeshua, to your praise are higher, henceforth and forevermore. Let it be so. Let's begin. Context, Sirach, chapter 1. Verse 1. All wisdom cometh from the Lord, and is with him forever. So, first thing we must realize is that everything, any knowledge, understanding that we have is coming from the Most High, and He's the source, the spring, which all wisdom comes from. And if we want to increase that, we must turn to Him. Verse 2. We start with a series of rhetorical questions. Who can number the sand of the sea and the drops of rain in the days of eternity? Verse 3. Who can find out the height of heaven and the breadth of the earth and the deep and wisdom? So the ironic thing of this is that man has proclaimed, oh, we know certain things. We know the height of heaven, we know the breadth of earth, but this is all stated in a form where only the Most High is the one who's really able to answer that. I know that at certain times we're given a glimpse of what a day of eternity is, and it correlates to 1,000 years in our time. But how many of these are passed, and how many are still to come? It's something the Most High can only answer. Or how many drops of rain are there in a rainstorm, or a thunderstorm, whatever it may be? Who only He can tell in with His fullest accuracy, with the fullness of depth. Going on to verse 4. Wisdom has been created for all things, and the understanding of prudence from everlasting. So what we can take away from this is that wisdom does have a beginning. Wisdom is a creation, and it has an origin, so to speak. So I know that's hard because it's more so a spiritual concept, and it is far from the tangibility that we're used to, that makes us feel comfortable in this particular reality that we're living. But spiritual ideals, spiritual concepts, spiritual beings, entities have a beginning as well. Verse 5. The word of God Most High is the fountain of wisdom, and her ways are everlasting commandments. So interesting that the fountain of wisdom is coming from the Most High. This wisdom is it manifests in everlasting commandments. So there's actions that are required. There are things that must be kept in place, fulfilled, if you are to have wisdom. It's kind of a prelude of things to come, but it's telling you indirectly that wisdom has commandments, has statutes, has ways that that verifies it or makes it wisdom in the first place. Okay, verse 6. To whom hath the root of wisdom been revealed, or who hath known her wise counsels? Again, rhetorical question. Verse 7. Unto whom hath the knowledge of wisdom been made manifest, and who hath understood her great experience? There is one wise and greatly to be feared, the Lord sitting upon his throne. So notice the dynamic we have here. We have the masculine, we have the feminine. And the feminine is understood by the male, the eternal plan, male and female, he made them. Wisdom is a feminine being, entity that was created, that comes from the Most High, and she understands his fear, what's to be fearful of him. You understand his mentality, and that he himself is the source of her wisdom. Verse 9 clarifies a little bit more. He created her and saw her and numbered her and poured her out upon all his works. So this should be making a little more clarity right now. If we think about the Genesis account, in chapter 1, the first thing that happened was his spirit was poured upon everything. And the whole idea that it's the verb, or the verb poured is being used, should elicit the thought of waters, of many, many waters, of spirit flowing over, of the rock, which is feminine. It's a feminine noun in Hebrew. And the Holy Spirit, wisdom, was created. It has its origin. And he numbered her and poured her upon everything. So now we come to our first question. Who does the Most High give wisdom to? And this verse answers that. She, or wisdom, is with all flesh according to his gift, and he hath given her to them that love him. So there is an understanding, even in the most basic people, of certain principles that if you don't do this, it's death, it's foolishness. So people know, okay, well, most people at least, that you need to continue to take care or bathe yourself to take away impurities from your body. Otherwise, you're going to stink like high heaven, or just high heaven, I guess. Deep hell would be a better terminology for it. I don't want to put that order up there by the Most High. Yeah, the reality that what you put in your vessel, even if people do not abide by it, is going to affect you. There's some basis. People understand that, even in a worldly. So her gifts have been given to all flesh, a portion of it. But to whom does the Most High give wisdom completely? It's just an outpouring of it and continue without limit. He gives it only to those who love him. And if we look at other concepts in the New Testament, we have one passage that says that you love the Most High by keeping his commandments, and that his commandments are not grievous. I mean, that's how we prove our love with one another, right? In this reality, okay, you love me, okay, let's say a parent, but you have two children arguing. The parent wants order and wants the children to get along, but if they're continuing to fuss, fight, then is that really showing a love toward the parent? I would venture to say no. That's a command that the parent has made, for there to be peace, that be unity amongst the household. So we understand that to a certain extent, and that's part of the wisdom that has been given to all flesh. But with those, for wisdom to truly manifest, those everlasting commandments, so to speak, that we kind of alluded to earlier, then there have to be obedience to it as well, not just a head knowledge of things that ought to be, but the actual execution of those principles, of those commands that that are prudent to follow. Okay, verse 11. The fear of the Lord is honor and glory and gladness and a crown of rejoicing. The fear of the Lord maketh a merry heart and giveth joy and gladness and a long life. So, again, I know typically we look at fear and think of something that should be something that should be avoided. But in this case, when it's toward the Most High, it actually is doing the opposite. It's actually a law, a liberty when we are in subjection to His order. And why? Because He knows how he made us. So when we're doing things outside of His construct, it may seem like freedom, but it isn't, because we get ensnared by the devices, the snares that are actually contrary to us in this lifetime. So when we fear Him, okay, we honor. What do we honor? We honor His commandments. Um, and what happens when people see our lives and just if you say the strictness of it, um, the purity of it, um, the dedication they desire it is to our glory. It resonates to people far and wide because it's so rare. And wisdom is according to her name. She is something that is given to all flesh, but that understanding can be corrupted. But the purest form with great gladness. It'll create a crown of rejoicing. Um, it goes even further, maketh a merry heart, joy, gladness, and long life. And why is it a long life? Because when we entangle ourselves with the, the folly of this world, we have all these unnecessary stresses. We think it's freedom, but then there's consequences, and therefore it shortens our day because we're continually entangled and trapped by Satan's traps. He promised great things with your God, but then it's contrary. He has no power, and you end up dying sooner. Okay, verse 13. Whoso feareth the Lord, it shall go well with him at the last, and he shall find favor in the day of his death. So all of this, your heart's at peace. Your heart is light as a feather. You're like air, and at the last, there's no bitterness, no bitter roots, no envy, no murderous, envious strife, all that which is living death, the spiritual reality that's manifested in the physical realm. All that is far from you, and your heart is carefree, which is what the Most High really intended in the very beginning, that we get back to that initial state that Adam and Eve were in, where their heart was carefree and they were like little children. Um, Now they have understanding, but now we're supposed to get back, and the only way back is by fearing Him. And how will we do fear Him? By keeping His commandments, by keeping His household rules. Um, and proving that we are truly His children, because now we're thinking as He thinks. Our thoughts become His thoughts, and we are not trying to create our own righteousness. We're just submitting to the Father, and our words are just like the Messiah. Let your will be done. Not my will, but your will. Verse 14. Another question. What is the beginning of wisdom? This is the beginning of wisdom. To fear the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and it was created with the faithful in the womb. So, to fear the Most High, that's only the beginning. So, if we have yet to fear the Most High, if we have yet to go down the road of looking at what He desires, just like in any relationship, marriage relationship, especially in courtship. Now, when marriage happens, then it may be a little bit different. People get irritated a little bit quicker, but when you're in a lovey-dovey phase, it's like, what do you want? What do you want to eat? Where do you want to go? It's always that concern for the other person. Well, this is the same with Most High. He gives us the living understanding, the living parables amongst ourselves, so we can understand from the physical world the spiritual reality. He made us in His image, so we're going to have similar emotion. He endowed us with it, but those emotions must be kept in check by the logical process as well. And wisdom is something that will give us that impetus, or give us that spark of understanding. So to fear the Lord, to fear the Most High, is the beginning of wisdom. And this is an interesting concept as well. It was created with the faithful in the womb, which means that everyone is not given faith. Some people are just set up for a fall. He makes He makes vessels for honor and vessels for dishonor. Um, those in the world who have it large, who have wealth, power, prestige, and they see no need for the Most High, and therefore they become fools because they see everyone dying and going that the pathway of the grave, but in their minds there's no fear or a thought of what's to come next, and that they can't take anything with them. And so that wisdom that is with those who are without is departed. They're born into faithlessness, and many of them will die in faithfulness because they were never given it to it. They were not in a humble state. They were not in a lowly state where the Most High could use them. And that's the recurring thing, that in order for us to be able to serve the Most High, we have to be in a low state. Everything has to be taken away. If the Messiah had to be in that state, then guess what? No servant is greater than the master. So we have to be in a low state for us to even begin to understand. That's just how it works. That's the rules of engagement right here. Um, as the Messiah says, it's very hard for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of heaven because they believe they pulled themselves up by their own bootstraps, that they did everything themselves. They don't think, they're not thankful for the healthy bodies they have. They're not thankful for the food, the sustenance that they have. They're not thankful for that they didn't make any of this. um, and that there's someone else that must be given praise for everything that they have. Sure, they can do some work, perform work, but it's nothing in comparison to the gifts that they have been given um, that made this work even possible. Okay, verse 15. With them she has built an everlasting foundation with men, and she shall continue with their seed. So this is a promise of the Most High, that wherever men are, she will continue in some shape or fashion, and she will be the foundation of men. She will give them the guidance and direction if they will listen to her everlasting commandments. Verse 16. The fear of the Lord is fullness of wisdom, and filleth men with her fruits. So again, here we have the concept that the fear of the Lord. But now it's not only the beginning, it's also the end. So it's everything. If there's no fear of the Most High, if there's no keeping of wisdom, eternal commandments, then we have nothing. Like we're just become fools. And the Most High does not humor fools. They will be destroyed in the end. They will bemoan, okay, why, how I hated instruction. But it's right here. It's the beginning, it's the fullness. Fear of the Most High begins everything, ends everything, Alpha and Omega. And filleth men with her fruits. So when the word fruit is used, you know there's been a planting. You know there's been growth. And when there's fruit, there's something that has been produced, something sweet, something succulent, something that people enjoy, a delicacy. And that's what happens when there's a fear. When there's a fullness of it, then it fills men up. People see it, they desire it. Even if they don't have it themselves, they see the difference, they see the understanding. And it truly is, and everything the Most High makes is for the purpose of revealing parables of the spiritual realm. Going forward, verse 17. She filled all their house with things desirable, and the garners with her increase. So, filled the house with all things desirable. Okay, we are the living temple of the Most High. So, people may look at this from a physical point of view. Oh, you don't have everything. No, neither did the Messiah, but he was filled with her. Neither did his disciples. They were poor men, uneducated, unlearned men, as the King James Version of the Bible says. But when you're filled with it, it exudes from you. It pours out from you. People recognize it, and they will flow to it because it has all the desirable things that they want. And the garners with her increase. Okay, so there's a continual increase as well. It never ends. Verse 18. The fear of the Lord is a crown of wisdom, making peace and perfect health to flourish, both which are the gifts of God, and it enlarges their rejoicing that love him. So here we have again the whole idea that it's a crown. It's something that is placed on your head. It's something that makes you, distinguish you from the common man. A crown is symbolic of royalty. So when you fear the Most High, you are being prepared to be royalty in his courts. You're going to be above. When you are seeking and searching for wisdom, when you're applying her commandments, you become a guide. You become a leader. A leader that is bringing forth peace and is bringing forth perfect health amongst the people. And always recognizing that these are all gifts that are coming from the Most High, and that he's going to continue to enlarge you. Like I said, the parable, where we have the person with the talents. The person who had more talents, even he was increased. But that person who decided to do the foolish thing and bury it, that person got none and only got the weeping and gnashing of teeth because they behaved foolishly, knowing that their power reap where he hadn't sown, but choosing to do nothing because of fear. Verse 19. Wisdom raineth down skill and knowledge of understanding, standing, and exalted them to honor that hold her fast. Okay, so again, what is this implying? She raineth down skill and knowledge of understanding, standing. It means that those who have wisdom will continue to have, I guess, a better understanding, a better grasp. Why? Because they're seeking, they're searching her out, they're making observation, they're understanding that the natural world was meant for them, and that they can gain principles, they can gain understanding, they can gain insight about themselves, about the nature of mankind by their observation, by them seeking, observing, and then they can get understanding by them praying and having a focus on those things that are immaterial, which will bubble down into the material world and help them in this journey called life. And it exalted them to honor that hold her fast. So ultimately, those who will hold on to wisdom will be exalted. They just have to hold fast. It has to be a steadfastness. It cannot be wishy-washy, a toss to and fro. It has to be, no, I'm in it. I'm in it to win it, so to speak. Here we have another question. What is the root of wisdom? The root of wisdom is the fear of the Lord, and the branches there are long life. And you see how the Most High does this. He continues to repeat the same thing over and over again. How many times have we seen the fear of the Lord, the fear of the Lord, and long life as well? This life and the life to come are all part of what wisdom brings. It's the very root. And again, we look at what a root is. A root is something that is dug into the ground, into the earth, receiving all its nutrients. And that's what it's saying about wisdom. It's going to continue to nourish, continue to give strength, continue to give all the essential vitamins, nutrients that you could ever need in your spiritual walk. And yes, bubbling over into the physical if you abide in it, if you have the fear of the Most High. And not only that, it's telling you the end of it as well. It's going from root to branches. So you're going to be tall, erect tree, nourished from head to soul, or head from toes to soul, to the top of your head. I guess I should put it that way. Again, you get the idea of a tree, a firm tree, of open righteousness in this passages. Okay, verse 21. The fear of the Lord driveth away sins, and where it is present, it turneth away wrath. So again, we have the fear of the Most High, which is indicative of wisdom, And what does it do? It driveth away sins. So, and what are sins? Is what the Most High said it was in the New Testament. It's the breaking of the commandment. So it driveth away one's desire to break the commandment. When there's true fear of the Most High, realizing that He's in control of everything, and that man can do very little. Yes, he may destroy your body, but what is he in comparison to the person who can, or to the being that can destroy both body and soul? So it's going to drive it away. There's no longer going to be a desire to come to you. It's going to be emptiness, and you're going to know it's an emptiness. While you're in the throes of it, you have emptiness, but you don't know how to express it, so you continue doing the same thing. But once you come to the fear, is understanding, and it's going to continue to push it away. Like, I can't do this anymore. And where it is present, it turns away wrath. Whose wrath? The Most High's. Where the spirit, where wisdom is, what He has poured off and He's given to know His love, it's that relationship again. It's going to turn away wrath, like a man for a woman he's courting, in the googly eyes and everything. She may have did something, but he's looking at her with loving eyes and everything. Okay, I got it. Going forward, verse 22. A furious man cannot be justified, for the sway of his fury shall be his destruction. So this is a natural result. Without wisdom, people become furious. They are upset with life because the sin hasn't been driven away. They want to find blame with everyone else, and they never take introspection of their own life. And therefore, before the Most High, nothing can be done with that, because they're justifying themselves. They can't receive the justification of the Most High. And it goes even further, for the sway of his fury or her fury, whatever you mankind overall, sway of fury shall be his destruction. Again, that continual pushing, like bucking, finding no peace at all. It often is the source of their own self-destruction. Verse 23. A patient man will tear for a time, and after a joy shall spring up unto him. Okay, so look at patient man. They will tear, and they will tarry, if you will, they will tarry, wait for a while, and again, the whole idea, they're being torn, or feeling being torn into two at this point in time, for a certain period of time, but in their patience, they will learn how to possess their soul, and afterward, joy shall spring up unto him, unto her. Because, and I guess we should examine that a little more. Why will joy spring up unto them? Because they know they have been victorious. They know they overcame. They knew that they did that which was difficult, that it was something worthy or worthwhile, that they relied on the Father versus relying on themselves, relying on His commandment, and become like children. And just like children, they're just imitating their parent. They just want to be where their parent is. They know that the reward is going to be the Most High. So joy will spring up, like no more cares, no more worries. I gave it all to you, Father, and now I get to be with you. Verse 24. So talking about the patient man still. He will hide his words for a time, and the lips of many shall declare his wisdom. So he will hide his word. He will not say anything. Okay, some people may call this silent treatment from a worldly perspective, but the hiding of words also is prudent. It's also is wisdom. When you realize that people in their discontent, they just want to argue for argument's sake. They want to make everyone feel miserable, so you don't give it to them, and eventually they will have no place to go. And in wisdom, you realize that person has to self-reflect and see themselves in this whole process. At the same time, while he's hiding his word, many people will declare that this person is wise, that they have understanding. Notice that they don't have to go around declaring themselves. That other people will praise them and tell them, "Now this is what you are." There's no, you don't have to have no PhD or anything of that nature to prove yourself to anybody. It just will be known for what it is. You know that you have it poured out upon those who love the Most High. Wisdom will be poured out upon him or her. All right, verse 25. The parables of knowledge are in the treasures of wisdom. Catch that. The parables of knowledge are in the treasures of wisdom, but godliness is an abomination to a sinner. So, what do you get when you are seeking wisdom, when you're getting understanding, when you're driving away sins? You understand parables. So many people will look at the parables of the Messiah and they're clueless to their meaning because you have to have wisdom to discern it. But to those who love the Most High, who are seeking Him with his heart, their whole heart, um, to them will the knowledge of these parables be revealed. They'll see the interconnection of all of it at once, in a moment. Um, but to the godly, but to the sinner, such stuff is abomination. I'll give you an example. So the godless will say, okay, you can't judge me, um, but you break that down, give them better understanding. It may not be particularly a parable, but it's just one scripture to give an example. You can't judge me, only God can judge me. And you can answer yes, only God can judge you, or the Most High can judge you. But you do realize that judgment was, I can't kill you because now we're under grace. But let's read a little bit further down in the verse. I think it's Matthew chapter, there's some Matthew 5 through 7 where it talks about having a beam in your own eye. That's what they want to confuse with the judgment. When we are supposed to take the beam in our own eye and then help a brother with whatever fault they have. But mankind does not want to have anything to do with it. And because people want to continue to sin, they will never hit a full understanding and they're stuck on a fragment of what a verse says to that which is desirous to them in the throes of sin. And therefore, the root of wisdom is cut off immediately because they don't love the Most High truly. Going further. Verse 26. What must one do if wisdom is desired? Now this should be clear all day, every day. If thou desire wisdom, keep the commandments, and the Lord should give her unto thee. This is a testimony. It's very simple. It should be very simple. And what are the commandments? Okay. Some of them very obvious one. Thou shalt have no other God. Keep the Sabbath. I've said this before. The Most High gives understanding. When we obey, then we get more understanding. If we don't obey, then it continually makes no sense at all. In our disobedience, we think we become wise, but we've given up wisdom and receive foolishness of this world, which men may call wisdom, by saying, well, every day is my Sabbath. It sounds righteous, but isn't obedient. You know good and well that you're not serving the Most High like every day, but that's the folly. What happens? The things that should be clear? No. Just like if we have an anniversary. Imagine that someone celebrates your anniversary 6 months after your marriage anniversary happened. You're looking at them kind of, what's wrong with you? So why don't we get it with the Most High? We get it when it comes to other things that affect us, but Most High made us in His image. So we should understand these very easily. But simple things like that don't make any sense. I don't have to do it. I can get to it when I want to, when I want to, at my timetable. And therefore, again, there's no fear of the Most High because we have exalted ourselves to Godship. The same thing that was offered to Eve at the very beginning is the exact thing that we're clinging on to at this very moment as well. We realize we've been blinded. It's right there, but we'll believe the Gentiles, believe those who have had a grip on vice on this world when they say, oh, the Old Testament done away with, you don't have to look at it anymore. and it's folly. Like, because wisdom automatically would tell you, hey, how can the bigger portion of this book not mean anything anymore, and this little small portion is everything? How do I think I'm going to get any understanding? Am I looking at the culture that it's even originated from, or am I looking at someone else's culture imposed upon the culture that's in the Bible? Will I ever get complete understanding? I challenge people with this thought many times as well. If I go and conquer China and I impose my Americanized views on everything, um, just like the Romans imposed it upon upon the Jews, upon the Israelites, do you think you're really gonna get the nuances, the fullest meaning of what it means to be Chinese? I go over there and conquer. I claim myself a Chinese because I'm in China, but I have learned none of the ways, none of the culture, or anything. It's the same thing with the Bible. How can you have understanding if you're taking on a different culture altogether and then superimposing upon it? You're gonna you're gonna be filled with error, and you're gonna be filled with the culture of the people who conquered. And the Most High knew this, but this is the testing. Wisdom is rare. Everyone's not gonna receive it. Most people are gonna go down the pathway that is easy instead of the pathway that's prudent. They're not gonna like growth. They're gonna hate growth. And notice that the Most High always give examples of a vineyard, of planting a field, the seed, and what your soil is like, because we're supposed to grow, not stay stagnant. But that's what the world loves, and therefore the Most High can't do nothing with it because it's counteropposed to His creation. The whole creation is about growing and growing closer to Him, being like a plant, not being a piece of dirt that stays on the ground and never goes any higher. Going further, verse 27 is commandment keeping the fear of the Lord. Read the first portion. For the fear of the Lord is wisdom and instruction. So, absolutely, commandment keeping is instruction. It is you following through an instruction that the Most High has given for your best life. It's as simple as that. So yes, that is the fear of the Most High, and they aren't grievous. If we live in a world where no one, after somebody else's wife, no one defrauded people, tried to take what's not theirs, no one coveted, okay, no affairs or anything, on and on. Everyone was able to unite and praise the Most High and be united. There would be no issues at all. It would be a perfect society. Everyone would be looking out for one another. There would be no issues at all. So, going a little bit further. What delights the Most High from men? And it gives us right here. It is faith and meekness that are His delight. So, meekness, what is that? Having power, but choosing to submit that power. Yes, I can go this way, but I'm going to choose to go this way. I'm going to surrender. Messiah said He could call 10,000 angels to destroy the world, but in His meekness, He surrendered that power. Now, notice it's not the other way around where you don't have any power and you're just surrendering by default so you have no power. It's where you actually are at a point where I could choose this, but I'm not. What is faith? It's trusting in what you have seen to feel things that have yet come to be. I guess that'd be one way of describing it. So based on a track record, based on all the blessings and providence of the Most High, you believe He will do something a little bit more extraordinary, a little bit more extraordinary, a little bit more extraordinary after that. And you have full confidence at that point in time because all what He did in the very beginning, just like He did with Adam and Eve, He created a complete world with trimming all around all these animals, and said, "This is yours." He gave everything, so it shouldn't have been no doubt. Like, He gave everything you is yours, and celebrate and be at peace with me at rest on the seventh day. Should have been an easy thing, okay? But that's His delight. meekness and faith, that you're really going to believe what I said, and not just blind faith, but based on all the evidence that I've given you that I will come through for you. All right, verse 28. Distrust not to fear the Lord when thou art poor, and come not unto him with a double heart. So let's examine that. It is easy when you have nothing, especially physically. And this is more so what I'd be talking about, because if you are spiritually poor, then you are coming to the Father. But if you are physically poor, it can cause distrust, because we're starting to see only with our physical eyes and not with the spiritual ones that the Most High wants to grant us with wisdom. So just not trust, fear the Lord even when you're poor. Keep His commandments. Have wisdom. Be in faith. I guess that's what He said. Do not be unfaithful, because distrust is unfaithfulness. And come not unto him with a double heart. You're coming already, and you're already torn. I want to do this, but I can't do this, because it's worldly sorrow. It's not godly sorrow when you're doing this, when you have a double heart. Not coming with fullness and integrity. It's double-mindedness. You're split. And eventually you're going to give out to one another. And more likely it's going to be the wiles of this world, if it's a split mentality on anything, since wisdom is rare and folly is widespread. Alright, and this is followed by this verse in verse 29. Be not a hypocrite in the sight of men. So that's what happened. You say one thing, but then you're reneging on it at another time. So maybe talking about, let's say, coarse stroking, and you don't do that. The next day you're coarse stroking. Or let's say you tell someone, okay, do not smoke the smokes of Satan, and the next day you're puffing a big weed of marijuana. That's being a hypocrite before the sight of men. So you have to stay your ground. You can't be double-minded. And take good heed what thou speakest. So he admonishes us to be mindful of what our tongue is saying as well. This all falling into that hypocrisy as well. Take good heed. Like he stresses, not just heeded, but good heed. Modifying that noun with that adjective. So showing it's not something that should be taken or pushed off for granted. That our words, what we're saying, are of utmost importance. Verse 30. Exalt not thyself, lest thou fall, and bring dishonor upon thy soul. And so God discovered thy secrets, and cast thee down in the midst of the congregation, because thou camest not in truth to the fear of the Lord, but thy heart is full of deceit. So, like I said earlier, other people will say that you're this or that. They will say that you're wise or have wisdom, even though you may be persecuted like the disciples and so forth, and the prophets. They have to. But if you come telling people, I'm wise, I got it all together, just boastful words, then Most High is going to find out that you got some secrets that are not so wise. You did not come in truthfulness to me. You did not humble yourself. You did not acknowledge who you were. You didn't acknowledge your faults for your fellow man. I don't want any part of you. And people will notice that as well. They will see that. Again, another level of hypocrisy that's going on. Want to make a claim that you're not, and being full of deceit, as opposed to being full of truth, being full of wisdom. You're not full of folly. You're full of what the Satan has to offer this world. He's the father of lies, and he puffs up the heart. So that it does not see that, okay, I mean, we need to abstain from this particular pathway. All right. So we come to the very end, and we're coming to our sword-ready verse at this point in time, and it's coming from Matthew chapter 5, verse 13 today. Oh, sorry about that. go back. One moment, please. Technical difficulty. All right, so now we come to Sword Ready verse of the day, and it says, "Ye are the salt of the world, but if the salt have lost his Savior, wherewith shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out and be trodden under foot of men." So we must bear this in mind. If we're salt and we no longer have any wisdom in us, if we have become like the rest of the world in lawlessness, even if you are the chosen ones, the children of the Most High, the seed of Israel, you're nothing. You're good for nothing but to be trodden down under foot of men. And even understand this parable. This is exactly what has happened to the children of Israel. They have been trodden down underfoot of all mankind. The Messiah is so deep when you understand prophecy, when you understand the bloodline, understand who people are against, when you understand the so-called Negro is trying underfoot and no one gives two flips, I guess, about his fate or her fate. And that's what has happened. They were cast out. We were cast out. Until a time where we could once again flavor the world, preserve the world, when the Spirit, when wisdom once again came upon us. So, much to be said about this. But anyway, that is today's episode. This is Renaya with week 39, signing out. Shalom.